Welcome to another episode of Where the Stones Have a Story to Tell. And we're going to begin to run out a couple of episodes around cairns. Cairns is a general term for piles of rock. And they can take on any number of different shapes, sizes, formations. In some of the literature, there are a number of permutations between 13 different types with different characteristics, different attributes, and different features. What we want to do in the next few episodes is really highlight the cairn types that are predominantly here in Foxboro State Forest, Gilbert Hills, and the surrounding town forest, and dig into a little bit, as best we can, what we think we know about them or could discern what they were here for. All right, what we have here is a pile. One would assume if you were just piling up rocks, eventually it would be conical or a cone shape, and that's not the case here. There's definitely some form and structure around it that implies some intent. In the book, well-known book on the topic by Maver and Dix, Manitou, they talk about prayer seats actually being used by a tribe, the Yurok Indians, that migrated from east to west about 500,000 years ago, and they know that they had come from the east or northeast because they had an Algonquin type language style, and they were really researched in the 1800s, so way past first contact, a lot better documentation, understanding what they were about, and we learned a lot about prayer seats from them. That one, they were often used for essentially charging stations for shaman, but occasionally they would be intentionally destroyed or knocked over either at the death of the shaman or a completion of a vision quest that he or she had seen while in the prayer seat. So we're going to take a look at these to see if that's a possible explanation. And if you can hear, I'm not sure you can with the microphone, a secondary line of exploration for this would be related to water intermittent streams. That is a type of cairn. They can either be in the stream or adjacent to it. The stream is right over the ridge there, so I'm not sure if that would count as adjacent, but we're very close to it, and it does happen to be the same body of water that runs by the first and second snake effigies that we've seen. Going back to even our first episode on the dolmen, we saw how water could be channeled down the grooves in the dolmen, making it very likely it was involved in the water ceremony. So we begin to see a thread through a number of different themes here relating to water ceremonies. And after I do the close-up of this structure itself, 30 yards up the hill is one of the two petroglyphs that I think I found here in Gilbert Hills, and it appears to be the image for water. So we'll go explore that right after we take a closer look at this cairn here. All right, as we approach this structure, when I first found it, I felt that there were some characteristics similar to a prayer seat here. And one, you can see pretty clear wall here on the left side of our screen. I'm going to dig into that in a second. And an arm on the right, which part of which had fallen away, but the stones that would make up that remainder right there are identical. You can see them right that they've fallen away there. The top fallen down. Now that would be a pretty well broken down prayer seat. Also, it wouldn't be particularly large either, not like the ones we've seen. So it's not totally clear if that is its origin, but we're going to take a look at that initially and see what the other characteristics here. So we come in to this left arm here, and we see what could be considered, as we know, niche, right? A little top stone here and a space here. So that could be its primary purpose. Looking over here, we see how possibly another little niche here, but clearly stacked and layered here, and that structure remains intact. This stone pretty flat, parallel to the ground. Coming over here to the right side, see that stone sitting up, and some stones having fallen down here that presumably would have filled that gap. as we come around, one of the striking elements to this formation is this pointer stone on the top. I'm not sure if from this angle that would qualify as a manitou stone. Manitou stones, we'll do a separate episode on. They're very important. They essentially were the embodiment of the main spirit, if you will. Settlers, colonists, when they began to learn about Native American traditions, called it the God stone. It would have the characteristics of two shoulders, right, left, and a neck, not a head. So it would typically be a stone up to here, over, and here. Not sure if it would qualify, but I bring it up just to raise the issue for debate. As we carry around the back, we see an embedded boulders here. That is a split stone. One could call that a split stone niche if you wanted to, theoretically. Not sure if it would qualify, but bringing up the typical attributes we would see in other structures around here. But based on an embedded boulder, we can see how it's built up all the way up here and coming around. We see this arm again, pretty well structured and intact all the way to here, and you see these three stones, layers of stones making up this cairn. So that is the main structure of the cairn. The body of water not far from here, about the same distance we would have seen from the snake effigies as well, and so that's the structure here. We're going to take a walk up, right up that way in 30 yards. We're going to take a quick look at what may be a glyph of a symbol for water or river. I wanted to show some research that I came across in taking a look at the petroglyph that we're about to see. Definitely some consistency around wavy lines used for bodies of water. That isn't to say that it is uniform across different tribes and different nations, but there is some reference to the use of this iconography relating to water. And as we can see in the petroglyph coming up, if it is man-made carving, it certainly is similar, strikingly similar to what we're seeing between the iconography for water and wavy lines that are parallel on this stone. I saw no other similar carving or etching in nearby stones, so if it were machinery going over the stone, it probably would have had more than one impact. So this is alone in this trail and could be related to the body of water that goes by this cairn and the first two snake effigies that we showed in previous episodes. All right, with that, let's get on to our next cairn. As we approach the second cairn, I chose it for its general similarity to the first, but as I spent more time here videoing it and checking it out in post-production, I think they actually have quite a bit more in common than I originally realized. As we go around this structure, you can see the back is very well built up, as was the first side of the wall, and then this side, this near side as well. So we see a pretty solid U-shape structure here. This is listed as a cairn in stonesites.net. When I first viewed it, I thought it had been possibly a broken down prayer seat or just a pile of rocks that had a general U-shape around it. But as I compared it and thought about the first cairn, it became evident that there was more to it than I had originally realized. You can see here in the center that there are stones in the center which presumably had fallen in, seem haphazard at first, but I don't think that's the case anymore. So as we do a side-by-side comparison of the two cairns, we can see they both have general U-shapes. They have higher backs. When you go around, it's pretty well constructed. It's not falling apart around most of the sides. And that U-shape is striking between both of them. In the center, we're seeing stones, which again I originally assumed had fallen in, but then once I looked at the video, they looked too similar to be coincidentally placed there. Then I noticed something else. Both of these had essentially top or pointer stones in their structure. And this became now evident that this may be a specific type of structure that may not have a specific name in the research quite yet. Certainly there are U-shaped structures like prayer seats. There are some U-shaped considered cairns, but this now takes on a different dimension where they are essentially run north and south through each other. The one on the right is due north, about a half mile, a little over a half mile north of the one on the left. The one on the right faces nearly due east. The one on the left faces due west. So it occurred to me that the similarities here are a little bit more than just coincidental examples of cairns, as I thought when I opened this episode. So I went back out here today. We're in the middle of a beginning of a nor'easter. Went out in the woods nonetheless and dug in a little bit to that first cairn to take a look at those center stones. And in fact, as we get closer in the close-ups, it is more and more evident that these were not haphazardly placed here, nor did they fall in. The structure, as I exposed it, seemed very intentional. And there is one stone sitting out in front that clearly represents some meaning or represented an intent. And as we get closer, we can see here that quite possibly it takes the shape of a manitou stone. That top part is set back. It's one stone, so it's a little carved, but you see the shoulders and the top. So we've got ourselves a bit of a mystery, and I wondered what this stone was pointing to. And in the next episode, rather than going on to other cairn types, we are going to explore these two further. Where was this headed? Where was this pointed? We're going to go explore that, and then we're going to go to cairn 2, dig that out a little bit, and see if the stones inside there lead us anywhere. All right. Well, I thought I was doing a general episode on cairns. Turns out we've got ourselves a little mystery. We're going to follow this where it takes us. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.